Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Columbus Wired's On the Bench. I'm Dave Weissman, filling in tonight with, of course, Dave Seaman. Let's first talk, Dave, a little bit about realignment. Officially, it was voted on and approved today, and it looks like Columbus, Detroit are moving to the east.
Yeah, it's an exciting day. You know, we were here a week ago and we talked about, it's close. It's might happen. The players have approved it. Well, guess what? The owners have approved it, and it's now official. Realignment happens. The Blue Jackets move to the Eastern Conference. Going to be with Pittsburgh, Philly, the Devils, the Rangers, the Islanders, Carolina, and Washington. A really good mix of teams when you think about it. And I got a couple numbers here. Which team, a little trivia for you, which team of those do the Blue Jackets have the best record against in franchise history?
I'm going to take a guess. The Rangers.
You are wrong. It's the Islanders.
The Islanders. I was close.
The Islanders. You were right at the right city. The Jackets 9-1 against the Islanders in franchise history. So it is kind of interesting. You mentioned the Rangers. The Blue Jackets 6-4-2 against the Rangers. You know, everyone keeps talking about how the talk has been, oh my gosh, they're moving from the Central Division to this new division. By the way, the league has not named the divisions. There was some speculation. There was actually a lot of speculation about this realignment, before it actually became official. But our division, you go from the Central to this new division with Pittsburgh and Philly and the Rangers. There's some heavy hitters in that group. But the keys to this realignment really are the fact that you're now only going to play out west twice a year, or I should say 2 road trips a year instead of the 4. So that means 6 games, maybe 5 games, maybe 4 games even will start 10:30 or later. So, that's a really big advantage for this Blue Jackets organization moving forward.
Absolutely. Now, the Blue Jackets are on a roll. Thursday night, had a tough time, lost to Chicago in a shootout 2-1, but quite honestly, that's the 9th game with gaining the point. So we seem to be looking really good and doing some really good things lately.
Yeah, it's a franchise high point streak for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And since we were with you last, they put together a 5-game winning streak, which matched a franchise high. So the Blue Jackets are doing the right things right now. And a couple reasons why. Obviously, they're playing with confidence. I mean, the overtime tonight against the Blackhawks, I got to say that, Columbus and Chicago played each other 4 times this year. Yeah. All four games were one goal games. Mm-hmm. 2 of them went to shootout or overtime shootout. So you're playing against the best team, the benchmark of the National Hockey League right now, and you're gaining points. You got 2 points out of the last 2 games, actually, with Chicago. They were part of this little streak that we have going on. But they're playing well. They're playing confident. Right. When you're successful, you have that confidence. It works. But, I think the other key to this is, it's a shortened season. You didn't have a preseason. I mean, you had a week. You had no preseason games. And you had no time to really come together as a team. And you look at this team now, and they have finally started to play really good hockey. I mean, they're gelling, and they're playing, I think, a lot. They're playing a lot like how people thought they would play. It's hard to say that. So that's important. And, the other thing is health. I mean, the team's been up and down with the health, and they're finally starting to get healthy. I mean, at this point, you have basically 2 regulars out of the lineup long term. Yeah. James Wisniewski, he's out until sometime in April. He's got the broken bone in the foot. And then Derek Dorsett, who got injured over the weekend with the clavicle, excuse me. And they're saying he could be out a month. He claims to be a quick healer. That's what he says. So it's possible he may be back in the lineup sooner or later. But, the other guys like Derek McKenzie and Nikita Nikitin, these are 2 guys that, they missed the last couple games. Just day-to-day things. They'll be back. I mean, but what this has done is has really shown the organizational depth of this franchise.
Yeah, the youngsters that are coming up and playing a significant role.
And 2, I've got to mention, Tim Erickson and Cody Gobelev, 2 defensemen that have really come in, and one of those guys are going to be in the lineup. John Moore is the other guy that's injured. He should be back in the lineup in the next week or so. But you're seeing the depth on defense, and, it's giving this city, it's giving this organization, it's giving Nationwide Arena a buzz. Hey, you know what? As of right now, Columbus 2 points out of the last playoff spot. A lot of games to be played tonight. Yeah. 2 points out.
And that says something. Now, with the new general manager coming in, how much does that play, do you think, in the rise of the level of play of the Blue Jackets? I mean, they're really, it's a new boss coming in. Mm-hmm. It's time to basically be re-interviewed, so to speak.
It is. I mean, Jarmo Kekalainen said, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to look at everything. I'm going to turn every stone. I'm going to be eyes and ears, and I'm going to look at everything." And it isn't about how hard you skate. He wants to know the character of these guys. He wants to know what kind of players he has on his organization. And somebody made a comment to me today. the trade deadline's coming up. It's April 3rd. So we're getting close to that. And there's been Jack Johnson rumors. There's been RJ Umberger rumors. I've been asked, on Twitter, hey, well, what have you heard? What have you heard? Hey, you know what? I haven't heard anything. It's rumor. I mean, Kekalainen actually laughed off a Pittsburgh or a Johnson to Pittsburgh rumor last week. So, but the one name that's come up is Brandon Dubinsky. And here's a guy who just came back from injury, but he's probably one of the hardest working players on this team. But he's inherited by Jarmo Kekalainen. He's not a Kekalainen guy. He's a guy that could move. I'm not saying, and let's not start a rumor mill here. I'm not saying that he's a guy that could be moved. But, I think there's a handful of non-moved or players that are non-movable. But I think that, what you're seeing is these guys are picking it up at pace, because I'll tell you what, I've been in the lunchroom with Jarmo, and he's not a guy you want to mess with.
Now, the one guy that has to have really impressed Jarmo is Sergei Bobrovsky. I mean, he's been on fire. He basically, at this point, has solidified the number one goaltending position over Steve Mason. What's his secret? I mean, he's just been...
He's good. He stopped
tonight in Chicago. Yeah. I mean, it was some of there were nets that everybody thought there was going to be scoring, and next thing you know, he's got a glove out there and stopping it, or a stick, or a pad.
The comparison with Bobrovsky has always been with Steve Mason when he won the Calder Trophy, several years ago. It seems like it's been forever. And when he lost the number one goal spot in Philadelphia, you saw the confidence just. And what you're seeing here is, Steve Mason was playing well. I mean, don't get me wrong, Steve Mason, he's played well all season, but he made one mistake. He had one bad game.
Is that three to
where he let three in a matter of a couple minutes, and that was his downfall. And it's not to say that you're not going to see Steve Mason at some point.
No,
I mean, there's a lot of hockey. Still 20-some games left in the season, so you're going to see Mason in net. But let me throw the numbers out at you. In the last 7 games, Bobrovsky has stopped 200 of 208 shots. His save percentage is .962. He was named the NHL player or first star of the week last week. He's a big reason why this team's on this point streak right now.
Exactly. Now, speaking of upcoming here, so the Jackets are going to finish up a homestand. Phoenix, Nashville, Calgary coming up. Gives us a little bit of momentum. Then here comes the tough part that you just mentioned. 12 of 17 are on the road, finishing up the season.
Well, and it's interesting. Thursday night was the last meeting between the Blue Jackets and the Blackhawks as Central Division opponents. And in a matter of a week, the Jackets have now ended season series with the Blackhawks and the Red Wings. Now comes the tough part. You still got to play Nashville 4 times and St. Louis 2 more times. 2-2 with St. Louis, with Nashville, 2 on the road, 2 at home. But we haven't seen Nashville since game 1. Yeah. The kookiness of the schedule, but you're right. It's important that they continue to play well, and I mean they've played well in this homestand. 3 games left. You got as you mentioned, Phoenix and St. Louis. In Calgary, the 3 teams. I'm looking at your notes. You've got. I see 3 games in there that are all very winnable. I mean, it's about being confident. And when you see how the Blue Jackets played against the benchmark, as we said, the Chicago Blackhawks, when you see the way the Blue Jackets played over the weekend, I should mention this, that the Blue Jackets swept the Detroit Red Wings this past weekend.
The Detroit Red Wings.
4-0-1. It's the first time in franchise history that the Blue Jackets have a winning record against the Detroit Red Wings. And by the way, they got a point in all 5 of those games. So it's about benchmark. It's about confidence. And they've got to go on the road. But you know what? So does everyone else in the league. And I mean, if they can continue to play, they always say it's sometimes easier to play on the road because you don't have the distractions. And, where you look at, they got the 3 games on the road. They come home Easter Sunday to host an Anaheim team who, by the way, may be the best team in the NHL or one of the best teams. Then they go on the big road trip. They do Western Canada. They come home for a couple games. Then they start they do a 7-game road trip before ending the regular season at home. So
it's going to be tough.
It's just about competing, and it's something that the Blue Jackets have done very well over the last 3 weeks.
All right, last question. We're not going to hold you to it.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Playoffs. What are we talking about? I mean, right now, Jackets are at 26 points. The 7th place team has 29. Very few points. A lot of things can happen in the next couple of weeks. Some teams haven't even had their injury bug hit them yet, or a losing streak or anything like that. Do we have a chance?
Every team. All 30 teams in the NHL. I mean, even if you look at the if the Blue Jackets were going on a 3-game losing streak, you'd be right back in 15th place in the Western Conference. It's that tight. That's what happens in these shortened seasons. And do I think the Blue Jackets have? Absolutely, they have a chance. Why not?
I think we get some of the players back. Things can, even better, get better, because then you've got all that depth that you're talking about as you make a run through the playoffs.
And keep in mind April 3rd, the trade deadline. People ask, are we going to be buyers? Are they going to be sellers? I mean, I don't think Jarmo Kekalainen's going to bring in a big name free agent. I just don't see it happening. He's not going to give up those assets. Remember, he's a genius when it comes to the draft. If anything, you might see a salary dump. You might see it. But you know what? I think he has the confidence, and we've seen this over the last 3 weeks with some of these young guys that have come up and have said and have shown on the ice, hey, you know what? We can come up here and play, and the compete level doesn't drop off.
Exactly. Well, folks, there you have it for now. Until next time, I'm Dave Weissman with Dave Seaman. We'll see you soon.